You've probably imagined your ancient ancestors as filthy, matted hair, rotten teeth, caked in dirt, reeking so badly you couldn't stand next to them. It's the picture everyone has, the dirty caveman. But here's the strange thing. That picture is almost certainly wrong. In some ways, the humans who lived 100,000 years ago may have been cleaner than you are right now, without a single bar of soap, a toothbrush, or a drop of running water. They had no idea germs existed. They had no bathrooms, no showers, no toilet paper. And yet they had worked out, by instinct and by hard experience, how to keep themselves clean enough to survive in a world that would kill you for a single infected cut. So how did a naked ape with no science and no plumbing actually stay clean? The answer will completely change how you picture them. First, let's kill the myth. The idea of the disgusting, filthy caveman comes mostly from cartoons and old movies, not from evidence. Think about it from the animals' side. Most wild animals are meticulous about grooming. Cats spend hours cleaning themselves. Birds preen every feather. Apes pick through each other's fur for hours a day. Our ancestors were animals too, with the same deep instincts. A creature covered in filth attracts parasites, gets infected, and dies. Cleanliness wasn't a luxury for early humans. It was survival. The dirty caveman never really existed. What existed was an animal that, like every other animal, worked constantly to stay clean. Their first and greatest tool was the most obvious one: water. Early humans didn't wander the desert. For most of our history, we lived close to rivers, lakes, springs, and coastlines, because water is life. And where there is water, there is washing. Rinsing off dirt, sweat, and blood in a river is something humans have almost certainly done for as long as humans have existed. It costs nothing, it needs no technology, and it works. A daily or near-daily rinse in cool running water would have kept skin, hair, and wounds far cleaner than you might expect. Before soap, before anything, there was simply getting in the water. But water alone doesn't shift grease and grime. So did they have soap? Not the kind you know, but nature is full of things that clean. Certain plants like soapwort and the roots and berries of others produce natural compounds called saponins that foam and lift away oil and dirt when rubbed with water. Wood ash mixed with animal fat creates a crude, primitive soap, and this discovery is ancient. Even fine sand and clay can scrub skin clean. Our ancestors were experts on the plants and materials around them, in a way no modern person is. It is very likely they knew exactly which leaves, roots, and ashes would clean a body and used them. Now for the part that shocks people most: their teeth. You'd assume ancient people had rotten, painful mouths. In fact, the skulls of many ancient hunter-gatherers show something startling: remarkably healthy teeth, with far fewer cavities than modern humans. The reason is brutally simple. Cavities are largely fed by sugar and processed carbohydrates, and ancient diets had almost none. No sugar, no bread, no sticky sweets, just meat, roots, nuts, and tough fibrous plants that actually scrubbed the teeth as they chewed. And they cleaned them too. People across the ancient world used chew sticks, frayed twigs from certain trees, some with natural antibacterial oils, brushing and picking their teeth long before the toothbrush existed. Then there's the problem every furry creature faces: parasites. Lice, fleas, and ticks were a constant threat, carrying disease and driving you mad with itching. Our ancestors fought back the same way apes still do: grooming. Picking through hair and skin to remove parasites by hand wasn't just hygiene. Among primates, it's one of the deepest social bonds there is. Sitting and grooming a friend or family member was affection, trust, and cleaning all at once. Some groups likely cut or shaved hair short to give parasites fewer places to hide, using sharpened stone blades. That constant, patient grooming kept the worst of the biting, disease-carrying pests under control. Of course, there's the question nobody wants to ask, but everybody wonders. What did they do about going to the toilet? The answer is the same thing every wild animal does: instinctively go away from where you sleep and eat. This isn't taught. It's a powerful built-in drive, because fouling your own living space is a fast way to get sick and die. As groups grew and stayed in one place longer, this became more deliberate. Designated areas well away from camp, downstream from drinking water, often covered over with earth. It wasn't plumbing, but the basic logic of keeping your waste far from your food and water is something humans understood long before they understood why. Here's something that might surprise you even more. Ancient humans probably cared about smelling good. As soon as humans had fire and gathered plants, they had access to fragrant smoke, aromatic herbs, flowers, and resins. Rubbing crushed, sweet-smelling leaves on the skin, sitting in fragrant smoke, or wearing scented plants are simple, obvious things a curious, social creature would do. We know later ancient civilizations were obsessed with perfumes and scented oils, and that obsession didn't come from nowhere. The desire to smell pleasant, to attract mates and mark status, is ancient. Your ancestors very likely dabbed themselves with nature's perfumes long before any bottle was ever made. But hygiene wasn't only about looking and smelling clean. In a world without antibiotics, a single infected wound could be a death sentence, so wound care was deadly serious. Ancient humans developed a surprising folk medicine toolkit. They packed cuts with certain plants and moss that we now know have antibacterial properties. They used honey, which is naturally antimicrobial, and clay, which can draw out infection. Maggots, disgusting as it sounds, were sometimes used to clean dead flesh from a wound. None of them knew about bacteria. But over thousands of years of watching what helped and what killed, they built up real, working knowledge of how to keep a wound clean enough to heal. Now, an honest reality check. This doesn't mean ancient life was spotless, or that everyone was healthy. When groups grew too large, or people were sick, injured, or trapped in one place, hygiene could collapse fast, and disease would tear through them. Water sources could be contaminated. Parasites and infections were still everywhere, and life was often short and hard. The point isn't that ancient humans were perfectly clean. It's that they were far, far cleaner and more careful than the filthy caveman cartoon suggests, and that they had to be, because, in their world, being dirty didn't just make you unpleasant. It could get you killed. So step back and look at what these people managed. With no soap factory, no dentist, no plumbing, and no idea that germs even existed, ancient humans washed in rivers, scrubbed with plants and ash, cleaned their teeth with sticks and a sugar-free diet, groomed away parasites, buried their waste, scented their skin, and treated their wounds with natural medicines. Not because a book told them to, but because staying clean was tangled up with staying alive. They read their bodies and their world with a skill most of us have completely lost. The result was a creature far tidier than the grunting, filthy caveman we love to imagine. So the next time you reach for soap or squeeze out toothpaste without a thought, remember that the instinct behind it is unimaginably old. Long before any of our inventions, a version of you was crouched at a riverbank, rinsing off the day, picking a friend's hair clean, chewing a frayed twig to freshen their mouth. We didn't invent the desire to be clean. We inherited it from ancestors who understood, without knowing a single germ by name, that cleanliness and survival were the same thing. It makes you wonder how many of your daily habits are far, far older than you'll ever realize. Ever wondered what else your ancestors figured out, long before anyone could explain why it worked?